All right. What's up, YouTube fam? This is episode 5 of the Liminal Podcast. I'm your co-host, Gabe. This is your host, Bot. To recap some of the prior episodes, we had Kid Katse on. He is a prominent urbexer and he does pranks in public. So if you're a fan of that, highly suggest checking out that episode and his profile. And following that, we had Dude Fridges. He's a really dope aesthetic type thing going with essentially Dude Fridges. So go check out that pod. It's both super funny, and I'll turn it over to Bot.
Yeah, of course. So really enjoyed having on those two guests, and let's go into the topics. So what's going on in your life, Gabe?
Not too much as of right now. Just trying to stay consistent with this podcast. Not in school anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. Job's been okay, but looking to make a switch with that soon. Moving into more like fitness related stuff, and hopefully get like this whole social media thing with the podcast going pretty seriously. But I don't know. I feel like we have a pretty good grasp on that right now. So just staying consistent with it. Other than that, just gym, sleep, trying to meal prep, and I don't know, just staying on top of those little things. What about you?
Mainly just school and work right now, because in school I've got midterms right now, so it's been pretty hectic because the last 3 weeks we pretty much had like a test every week. So, and like my ass does not study that much, so I'll straight up like wait till like the last 2 days and then just like try and like catch up on everything. So it's been pretty bad with studying, but again, through it, locking in, consuming my nicotine, and work has been pretty chill. I don't really do much there except for just like manage people, but that's about it.
Nice. Good recap.
Yeah. But do you want to talk about the future topics and things we want to do in the podcast?
Yeah. So I know behind the scenes, some of the smaller, more aesthetic type of things we've been trying to do is hammer home maybe a better intro. I feel like you've been pretty good with the editing overall. I know we have this point later on, but we want to start incorporating a hotline type segment where we have followers of the bot page kind of call in, and we could just shoot the shit for a little bit, kind of catch up, and maybe we could do like little, I don't know, anywhere from like 30-second to like 2-minute call-ins, just try to get a bunch of people, see what's going on. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm focused on. What you got?
Yeah, so on the topic of the hotline segment, so the way I kind of wanted to do that was I wanted to create a whole Discord for the community for my page, and then maybe like on one of these weekends we could just have like a whole bunch of people just pile into one lobby, and then we could just like have like a kind of like a Kill Tony kind of segment where each person gets like a minute or two to just like speak about whatever topic we choose, and then we can just go person to person. So we could pretty much cover whoever joins the hotline. And also, I don't think you mentioned this, but I wanted to do a live stream portion on Instagram, which is pretty much just we'd live stream like me and you through this medium of VR chat. I actually figured out how to do it, so it's gonna be really amazing, and hope to have a lot of good conversations with and just see how things flow and what the whole community just thinks about it, because I guess marketing wise I do an okay job, but I think having that form of a live stream and just more community involvement in things will definitely bring things more to the surface of just what we're trying to do with this podcast and just spread the message of it.
Yeah, you've been I know in like the past week or two, it seems like you've been touching on the engagement portion of your social media. Do you kind of feel like that's been like slacking a little bit?
Do you mean in terms of the podcast?
Either podcast or just the liminal.bot page. It seems like it's kind of been on your mind, just trying to like get more engagement, whether it be like with the shorts or reels we've been talking about, or just some more like audience-based stuff.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like the more like short form content that we push out with this podcast is definitely going to elevate it to more audiences, because I guess not a lot of people like watch. Oh, people do watch podcasts nowadays, but I guess they just like it in the form of clips nowadays because that's just how content is just evolving nowadays. So having it in clips and just like short form, maybe 60 seconds to like a minute 30, will definitely kind of bring people more to watching the longer form version of it.
Yeah, I hope we can get to that point because I think what we have going with the podcast right now is definitely more of a personalized look of just what we have going on behind the scenes because I feel like the stuff on your page is an artistic outlet of sorts for you. But at least with the creators that I follow, I like when they have podcasts because it's a little more of a raw segment. You can kind of see what we're doing and thinking, albeit I'm not too involved in the liminal.bot page. Obviously, with the podcast, I am. So I think it's kind of cool to see what creators are doing behind the scenes. And I hope we can get these reels going too, because I know for sure I've been on like the short form wave for a minute now.
Oh, for sure. And like, even with the YouTube shorts, it'd be pretty interesting because like, I would say that a majority of my feed on YouTube shorts is mainly podcast clips that pop up. I don't know if you get the same thing or not. Do you?
Same. Yeah, it's always like I get like a lot of like fitness influencer podcasts. I don't know if you've seen like Raw Talk, but I get a lot of that. I get a lot of like Kill Tony clips, occasionally JRE, but not as much. And then I watch a lot of UFC fighter Sean O'Malley's podcast a lot, so I'll get a lot of those.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing I wanted to cover as of this segment is doing more IRL stuff. So I think we talked about this, but the Backrooms movie seems to be coming out within maybe this year or next year. So my idea was pretty much just to have an IRL watch party where we go to like LA or somewhere, and then everyone buys their tickets, and then we all watch the movie. And just to give some context behind this, it's the Backrooms movie with A24 that's going to be not directed, but kind of made with Kane Pixels, who's a really big 3D animator in the Backrooms community.
Yeah, bro. I'm all for that idea. I know we've been shooting it back and forth, but I think hell, even if we do like some kind of like vlog style to LA, let's say like me and you obviously go, maybe we bring a buddy or two and we all just buy some movie tickets to go see the Backrooms film. I think would be a great way to like put faces to names you see online, and maybe we could I know we're not like too big into it, but maybe we could do like a vlog style where like we like record the trip essentially and then see what happens from there. I think it would be a great segment.
Oh, for real. Yeah, and like I don't think I've ever even showed my own face on. Actually, I did once. It was on a live stream with one of my buddies, and it was pretty interesting. A lot of people were surprised, but I don't know what they were expecting me to look like. Like, what am I supposed to be, like a sweaty like Discord mod or something?
Yeah, well, I don't know what they're expecting, but I'd say as of right now, we can probably shoot for LA. And do you know when it comes out?
I don't personally. I would assume maybe end of this year, maybe 2025, but that would just depend on how the progress is going. I know one of my buddies who talks with Kane Pixels sometimes, so maybe I could have an insight on that, or maybe it'll just be a secret until an official trailer comes out. But yeah, really looking forward to that.
Yeah, so we'll probably have that in the mix, and I assume probably just monitor your socials for future updates. But I think that's something I'm definitely interested in. I think you are too, and figure out where to go from there. I'll probably hit like an Airbnb hotel. Hopefully get to meet some of you cool guys, and I don't know, have a low key thing. So if you're on the West Coast, let's have a little movie sesh with Backrooms. It can be fun.
Sounds like a plan. And next thing I wanted to cover was the horror gaming. And I'll cover that on my end. So basically what I want to do is more live stream, kind of either live stream or just record it and then upload on YouTube. But my idea was to do a Backrooms horror style video gameplay just with me, my buddy, or anyone else in the community that wants to join. but there's a couple Backrooms games that are out now that are co-op. So I think it'd be really cool to run it with like me, a buddy, and some other people that are like pretty famous in the community, and just see how the community likes it. And yeah, that was the plan for the Backrooms gaming.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty lit on that. And I don't have PC, as you know, but if anything's cross-platform, more than down to host a little lobby. And this is a little bit unrelated, but if anyone plays Fortnite, we literally have been gaming Fortnite like an absolute degen lately. So if you ever want to join, hit me or brought up on Instagram. I'm jesse.plemons.lemons. So shoot me or him a DM, and maybe we can run some quads or something with our buddy.
Oh, for sure. We just need like one really good player that can get us a dub. like your qualification.
Yes. Ideally, like level. What do you think? Like level 100 plus?
Yeah, I mean, because we're pretty much 90 plus right now in Fort, because we've been running it consistently at least 3 to 4 times a week, I'd say. But if you're like, if you're level 100 plus, do hit us up, because we do need one more person for quads.
Yes, sir. Level 100 plus, ideally PC, just so you could destroy console noobs like myself. But if you're a good console player, that works too. Just hit us up on IG with your handle.
Yeah, and another thing we wanted to talk about was horror narration, if you wanted to cover that.
Yeah, so I've been spinning this one for a minute, and I'm not too sure why we haven't done it yet, whether it's like a production side of things, a laziness thing, or just not enough ambition to do it. But I think hopefully going forward on this channel, we can start doing some Reddit horror narration style stuff. And maybe we could even put a mix on it where we either do like live segments or do like back and forth style narration. So let's say I'll start a story, could read a little bit, might fuck up here and there, and then we could give like some commentary on the story, and maybe even make it, I feel like this would be kind of funny, like a little drinking session, like drinking plus like reactions to horror stories we find online. I think that would be a pretty sick little segment. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the drinking thing, you caught me on that one. I think that might be the winning move for me. But yeah, I think some a little bit of drinks, a little bit of Zin, pop one in, a little upper decky, yeah, and just go at it. I actually used to do some horror narration on my live stream, actually last year during the summer. So it was pretty cool. I used to get a bunch of people in the live stream that would just pop in, just listen a little bit and just dip. But it was really great, and I'm really looking forward to it. What's up?
Were those live streams you used to do from when we used to live together at the old house?
Yeah, so if you remember I had a tripod set up on the floor. I had my camera set up like right there facing a fish tank, or the artificial fish tank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember that. Those were pretty golden. And I just mentioned like some of the drinking / back and forth because I feel like as a whole, like horror narration hasn't really evolved too much outside of maybe some of like the stuff. Like, I don't know if you watch him, Let's Read. He does live narrations of his stories and then he just edits it all together. But during live streams, he'll just have a chat going and kind of reference back and forth. Like he'll start a story and then he might mess up, talk to chat a little bit and then keep going. I think maybe something like live stream style like that, or we could even do it like pre-live stream first, like just me and you, kind of like what we have going here, edit it, see how that goes, and then maybe try live streaming and having like some input from the audience. I think would be pretty fun to have, like maybe ideally like weekly or bi-weekly.
Yeah, and like one cool thing that we could do is we could actually do it all in VR in like a really cool map I could set up just like at the desk, and then we could have I'm trying to figure out a way in Unity of how we can integrate like a book that we could just read off of, because right now how we have it set up is I have a little slit in my headset that I could see like on the on the nose pad of it where I just tilt my head up and then I'll read off of a Google Doc. So if I could streamline that process of just having something that's a little easier, because right now it's kind of a little bit of a hassle. So I'm trying to improve on things. Maybe do a little live stream session in like a scary map, a little campfire or something, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I think the VR setup would be sick. It's just we're kind of limited because, like you said, I used to reference my phone through that like 1 or 2 inch slit below the nose on the Quest headsets, but that's not too realistic for a pod like that. So maybe even just starting out, we could kind of do like what you used to do with your old streams, where it's like you have the live stream going, but we're kind of faceless and it's more like narration style. There's some ideas to think about, but like, yeah, ideally it would be cool to have just more access to like read a screen, how our drinks going, have chat, and then just run it from there.
Yeah, of course. It's gonna be pretty dope when we have it set up. But next thing I wanted to talk about was the recent controversy with one of my posts that blew up out of nowhere. So basically, the context of this reel was, it was of course like a character from the background is the character is from like 2024, and he's pretty much saying like, oh yeah, 2022 was like, it was not fun, it was not a great time. And then the next kind of slide, it just cuts to like pictures of just 2022, and it's just bliss, like it's just perfect. And pretty much the comment section was really split in that a lot of people had a really great 2022 and a lot of people had a really terrible 2022. So, and there was probably at least 3,000 comments of just back and forth ramble. I think some people were even fighting in the comment section. I was like, this is getting out of hand here. So I was curious on what you thought about it.
Yeah, I thought the contrast in the comments was pretty strange, all things considered, but I feel like I can see both sides, but at the same time, like that 2022 summer's coming up on about 2 years now. So in reality, it's not the most distant thing, but it's also not super recent. I think it was just kind of monumental for us because of the situation we were in at the time, because that's when I graduated college. We had a lot of like trips planned for the summer, and it was nice having everybody back home because that was a time when we could all hang out. So I think from our perspective, we were just in a little more of a unique time with like school getting out and then transitioning more into an adult role of sorts, just post college. And I think that's kind of what made it so special for us. But I think I could also see the other side of the spectrum where it might have just been another summer for most people. Like people might not have been graduating college or doing transitory things with their life. Like, I don't know, like let's say starting a family, starting a new job, getting older. But I think for us, it was just so peak because that was like early 20s for us, at least most of us. That's when all the boys were home. I don't know. I feel like it was just iconic for us because we had that experience of like late night sessions and I don't know, like warm evenings with the pool. We had a little setup in the backyard. We had the drinks going. So it was just a time to be alive for us, I think.
Oh, for sure. And that comment section was actually pretty wild. I was looking at it today and like the comments just, they're not stopping. And the funny thing was, some people were actually commenting. They're like, are you 12? What? how old are you? It was pretty wild, but like, and one of the other funny comments was, like everything after 2020 was horrible. But when I look back at 2020, it was really amazing because it was online school, really easy. I would play video games while I was in a Zoom call, and like the teacher would be like bugging me, and then so I just closed my laptop and I just continued playing games.
Yeah, I think maybe for those type of posts going forward, it might be interesting to throw up something on your story where it's like identifying like age range and then whether you related to the nostalgia of the post or not. Because I feel like for that post in particular, more younger audiences and older audiences probably didn't get the same level of nostalgia that people, let's say like 18 to 24 did that interacted with that post. Would you agree with that?
Oh, for sure. And even it was pretty split because you could still have a great time even when you're older. It just doesn't have to be just like deadlocked to when you're younger, that summers are just amazing or just life is amazing. It might seem like that at first because when you're younger, things are much newer and new things are happening like every single day. But I guess when you get older, I guess that changes to some people. But great things are still happening, and I just wanted people to recognize that, regardless of, even if you're in a terrible situation, you can make the most out of it.
Yeah, I just thought of this, but maybe some of those style posts you make are more of just a reflection of what other people are doing with their lives. Like, let's say you don't have too much nostalgia for the time, or you can't look back on memories you have. Maybe you should analyze that a little more and think like, okay, am I actually doing fun things with my life, or am I just stuck in this corporate 9 to 5? Like, maybe you're in a relationship you don't really like, or have a family who you don't bond with, or you're just not having like formidable memories anymore. Maybe it's just, like I said, like a reflection of what's going on with you at the time.
Yeah, and you're right, because sometimes really you just have to look inside to see if how have things changed within X amount of years. And I don't know, just really reflecting on how things have changed in your life. And if things aren't going great, then maybe something has to change. Or if things are, I don't know, it's just really just looking inside of yourself and just seeing how you could analyze your own personal past and how you can maybe improve your future based on that. Like, great things are still happening. I think people just focus on just the terrible aspects of the world at the moment because, like, terrible things are happening, but there also is a lot of great things that are still happening. Like, the more you focus on the bad shit, like, the worse off you're going to be in life, because the more you focus on like the bad stuff, maybe on like the news, then you just get too distracted in your life, and you're like, oh, maybe back then was better. So maybe reminiscing on the past is just what I have to do for the rest of my life, rather than just living in the present.
Yeah, bro.
Having
And
a great time.
I totally get that point, and that lends in perfectly into what I was going to say earlier is like, I get social media and the news are more in people's face, and the Apple Vision Pros, which we were just talking about not that long ago, is really starting to pick up pace, and you're starting to see reviews and practicality behind it. It's easy to see how like all this new tech and media is just like literally rotting people's brains to the point where it's like you can't have a nice summer evening with your closest friends at this point because you're either like attached to your phone, or let's say you got some money and clout and you got the Apple Vision Pros. It's like, yeah, no wonder you're not having like those nostalgic type memories that like you'll look back on even 2 years from now, because I still think we're in a position where we're creating these really cool memories now that we're going to look back on later. And I think that takes a certain willingness on the individual part to make that shit happen, because it's so easy nowadays to just stay inside or look at your phone, look at your laptop, and not go out and do fun stuff. I mean, bro, we have buddies like that where it's like, all right, bro, put the fucking like video game or phone down and like, let's go out and have some fun, or just come over and like, we'll shoot the shit for a minute. It's something I think most people are going to have to deal with at some point in their lives now.
Oh, for sure. And I think just some people have a really good sense of how they use technology, but also some people have a really terrible sense of how they use technology. They're like, oh yeah, my screen time is like 12, 15 hours. I'm like, did you just hear what you just said? Like, come on, dude. Like, you got to get off that thing and go outside, touch some grass, go get stung by a bee.
Oh, for sure. I feel like anything I get stung by a bee. I feel like anything over like 6 hours is a pretty good wake up call to where it's like you might want to look at the analytics of what you're spending your time on, because let's say from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, most people I would say have average. Let's say you get up at like 8, go to sleep at like 10. Let's give or take 14 hours. Let's say average like 12 to 16 hours in a day, just depending on when you get up. And if you're on media for like 6+ hours, that can be a good solid half of your day. And it's like you only have so much time. And I get it. Like most of the time, life is more or less boring, but in those little moments, you can fit with like having a conversation or honestly just going outside and touching grass sometimes, I think is worth it.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, it's really interesting because everyone has a phone nowadays. You could download whatever app you want. You could have any form of social media, make your account, and then it's just a constant stream of just dopamine in your face. So you just get really locked into that and just, I think it's more of like a sense of tunnel vision where like I personally have to stop myself after a few reels after it's just stupid stuff, or I just have to unfollow people that I don't think are interesting or just are, like you said, rotting our brains. I get a lot of people like that, a lot of reels that I just...
Oh yes, the Family Guy brain rot, and I feel like I've been catching myself more lately too because I've been trying to be cognizant of what I spend my time on, and it's like I've been wanting to do more reading and play more chess, and I've noticed with like sometimes when I'm just like scrolling, my big thing is like YouTube Shorts. I don't know about you, but I'll be on like YouTube Shorts for a cool minute, and it's gotten to the point now where I'm like, bro, this is fucked. Like, I need to let this go. This is just like giving me eye strain. And like, have you heard of the phenomenon of like text neck? Like when you're like looking down for too long, yeah. I get that sometimes, and I'm like, all right, I gotta switch this up and just get to something more real. Whether it's a book or texting a friend. One thing I've enjoyed lately a lot too is just like having nice like long form calls with friends too.
Oh yeah. And this one thing I've started implementing was it's this kind of brain training where you just put everything aside and you just stare at a wall. Have you ever heard of that?
No, I haven't. How have your results been with that?
They've been pretty good so far. Like I'll just stare at a wall for 30 to an hour. Like you could either stand up or you just like lay in bed and then just look at your ceiling. But it's been really interesting so far because my immediate reaction is to just go to my phone because that's what's easily available. Like I think that we've just gotten so accustomed with not being bored that any kind of boredom in our lives is just seen as just such a negative thing. But I think it's really good to be bored nowadays more than ever because there's just a constant stream of content in your face. The news is in your face sometimes. And just, I feel like that really degrades your mental health in a sense.
Yeah, I catch myself being able to not be in like silence a lot of the times. Like I know it's some people, it's a lot of like the visual in your face. I found what I have to work through is having auditory things, whether it's like a podcast, I've been watching like a lot of like psychological counseling through Healthy Gamer GG. He's been pretty cool to have in the background, but sometimes I think it's good to just not listen to things too, because I think Tucker Carlson put it pretty well, but his premise is he doesn't have a TV in his house because if there's somebody talking there and let's say you don't agree with them, it's inviting someone into your house that you wouldn't want there. And I think it's the same thing with media. Sometimes when you're just taking things in, you don't really realize that you're just absorbing the thoughts and ideas of someone who may not always have your best interests in mind, or education that could in some sense be harmful to you as well.
Oh yeah. Actually, I have a TV in my room, but I really don't use it that much except for maybe on the weekends. But yeah, just any form of technology nowadays, I could see people's kind of interest in why the past was better. So I can see from people's perspectives, like in the comments section for that controversial post, because things seemed more simpler back then without technology. And I do share the sentiment of that. And personally, in my own life, I think one change I want to do is switch to a dumb phone, if you know what that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so I want to switch to dumb phone after my current phone is kind of degraded a little bit more. And I feel like that would help a little bit, just not being on my phone, but still managing my, of course, social media, Liminal Bot, through just my iPad, because I am never on my iPad or even on my computer. I could just pull it up on there. So it's this weird thing that I saw in this documentary where the way that people consume content with the short form of how they, the swipe up feature.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it replicates counting money. Have you ever heard of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have. I could definitely see how that works too.
Yeah, so switching to a dumb phone, just not being on your phone that much, just simplifying stuff. And yeah, just technology is great, but it also has a lot of big downsides to it.
Yeah, I often wonder now how you ever see like those. I don't even know if it's a meme or a reel, but just the statement that the Industrial Revolution has caused fill in the blank. It kind of feels like that now with this constant progression. This is something we've talked about, I want to say in like the first or second episode too, but it's getting to the point where I feel like what we have now is oftentimes more than enough adequate with what we need at that point in our lives. I think the phone has become more than just something that uses a form of communication. For a lot of people, it's their means of making money. For some people, it's just business related things. So, and then there's a lot of social media, obviously, too. So it's kind of become like its own, how do I put it? Like, I guess it's been a tool used to expand the realm of social media in everyone's pocket now. So I would definitely like to like try something like that too eventually. I don't know how realistic it is at this point because I know all the different utility that my phone provides me outside of social media, but I think it would be good for most people to just kind of, I don't know, let's just kick it back to like 2010 when we all had like flip up phones with the little keyboard and stuff and just try to have fun with that and maybe have some more like face-to-face conversation like, yo, what time is your mom dropping you off at? Like we're fucking like 14 or something.
Do you remember those old school chat rooms? Do you ever mess with those?
Oh, bro, like Kick or some of the. I feel like even like old school messaging was like that. Is that what you're talking about?
A little bit. There was also these chat rooms. Like, I know people use it nowadays, but it was just starting out back then. But Omegle was actually a pretty interesting thing that I thought about, and I would just hop on there when one of my buddies would come over to the house, and then we would just pop up on Omegle and just talk to the most random people across the world.
I never had much experience with Omegle, but I have seen this one guy on YouTube that does like this one guy does like magic tricks on them and he'll just troll people, but it looks like a really fun and funny form of of media to use now. Sadly, I haven't used it too much, but maybe we can make some stupid content with Omegle.
Imagine a VR kind of Omegle just watch party or something, or just like we pop up on there in kind of this setting and then we just start talking to people. That would be pretty interesting.
Oh, that'd be golden. Just going back to that engagement, like I think the long-term plan is to just get more IRL and chat type engagement, because what we're doing with the podcast is really cool, but I think once we start to get some of the viewers involved and make some friends and do like the IRL hangouts, I think it's going to bring the page to another level, because obviously you've been on the back end of managing the page, but I think it feels like you're to a point now where you're wanting to expand it more, like in that sense. Do you feel that same way?
Oh, for sure. And I feel like the more pages I work with and the more content I put out that's different from kind of my branding. I wouldn't even see my branding, but I pretty much started out with just liminal spaces and just the concept of the backrooms, but I've just wanted to grow out more into different things. Like one of the previous things within last year was I introduced more nostalgia based content, and of course gaming stuff has been really interesting. So, and also just the podcast has been amazing. Viewership is kind of low, but you kind of expect that within the first couple episodes, but I'm happy with it. It's really great. and I just want to keep putting out content that people enjoy. But like going back to the whole social media thing, sometimes I envision this thing in my head of just what if I never started this, and it kind of weighs on me pretty heavy nowadays. It's like, what if I didn't start any of this? What would I still be doing? So it's
I
really
mean,
interesting.
I think in your personal life, you're really good at not being an online personality. At least I can say that from my experience, but obviously we're related. I don't know how you are in like your other interactions, but just from what I can see, I think you're pretty grounded in reality and you don't let the fact that you have this huge following become your entire personality, which I think is super important. And I get the sense that even if you didn't have the page, you would still be able to find like meaning and a sense of happiness in your life. So regardless of what happens with the page or like how you want to go with it, I think you have a good grounds of how to live your life like without this online platform you've cultivated.
Oh yeah, even you touched on a really great point, is that I actually don't tell people anything about the page. I want them to get just me as kind of just a person rather than just this social media figure. But I guess I don't really tell a lot of older people because of fear of them not understanding, or like it's mainly with the older kind of generation. They don't seem to understand it for some reason, and that's okay. But yeah, I really don't like marketing myself to the whole public when I meet someone. It's like, imagine that you are a social media figure and then you meet this new person and like, oh, did you know that I have like 400,000 followers on Instagram? It's like, bro, come on. Like, I want to know about you. I don't want to know about your whole situation online. Like, what are you like outside of this page? Really? That's what we want to get to.
Yeah, I remember when I had a concrete idea of really committing to what we're doing now with the podcast. I was driving to Arizona and all cellular reception had come out. And this is a good point I learned about the other day. But when you're trying to find meaning in your life, it's oftentimes important to get into like a meditative state where you don't have any distractions. And that's essentially what happened on this drive. I remember thinking, what's missing from my life that I'm not fulfilling at the moment? And one of the biggest ones was creative endeavors. And that's what's nice about this, because I don't feel the sense like I feel like that guy that goes to the job not caring if he gets fired with this podcast, because I don't rely on this for some sort of like monetary value. Although if that happens in the form of like sponsorships, like we talked about, dude, that's fucking dope. No problem there. But it's just nice because we can like free flow and say really most of what we want, albeit we're not going to be the sailormen that we can be sometimes off camera. But for the most part, what you hear is really what we think. And we don't have to abide by some kind of like political or I don't know, any kind of like, any kind of ideologies on this. We can just have fun with it. And if it ends up taking off in the future, which in the back of my mind, I do have a feeling it's going to happen. That's going to be great. But in the meantime, we're just doing this because we want to do it. There's nothing binding us to this. We just get together like at the end of every week and it's like, bro, you ready to rip this pod? And it's like, yeah, let's do it, man. Like there's no bars held. I'm not relying on this for any kind of paycheck. You're not either. And I think that's what's going to make it so fun in the long run.
Oh yeah, and like going back to the sponsorship thing, imagine we were one of those podcasts that got like sponsored by Athletic Greens. We just had like a prop right here. It's just like, oh yeah, take Athletic Greens, like it's the greatest product in the world, or some like you know those Zippix toothpicks that what's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
KT Kildoni. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, it would just be really funny. And sometimes I really hate sponsorships nowadays because on social media, if you are like this big, like I know a lot of meme pages do it, but I kind of see it as sort of a sellout when they start sponsoring OnlyFans models. And I don't know, it's just a real big letdown nowadays. It's like I follow you for your memes at first, but now you're pushing out this OnlyFans sponsorship. It's like, dude, come on. Like have some sense in your life. Come on.
For sure. And I feel like one thing, if we were ever to get any sponsorships, one thing I appreciate about some of the creators I follow is that they'll actually advocate for the product. So let's say it's like nicotine toothpicks. Like, bro, you already know I'm going to be using those on and off camera. So I would prefer it's something be like an AG1 or Zippix or just something along those lines of like shit that we actually use. I wouldn't want to just promote some like crap because we're getting, paid for it.
Oh yeah, and I feel like sometimes with people, they'll sponsor product, but they never even use it, and that's such a weird concept. It's like, are you just selling out just so you could get the money for it? Which I could see the use case for it, but it's also like, do you actually enjoy the product? Because a lot of advertising nowadays, it's just getting these sponsorships from these different companies, and it's just like a one-time thing. It's like, oh yeah, here's AG1. I totally use it in my regular life. like meanwhile in the background, they're like tossing this thing in the trash or something, or doing something with it. But yeah, it's just it's really weird.
Yeah, I'm putting all those creators on blast that are like talking about Raid Shadow Legends. Like, motherfucker, I know you're not on that app. Like you're advertising it. Like, yeah, I'm sure you're getting a bag from them, but I don't know, where's the dignity in that of like promoting something that you don't fully believe in? And I feel like that can translate to so much other stuff other than just like advertisements, whether it's like careers, relationships, just whatever the fuck you spend your time in, really.
I like the VPN ones. Those are pretty funny. Like Surfshark or NordVPN, or they'll like segue somewhere in their content. It's like, come on, let me just skip this. Let me just skip on that.
It can come off pretty cringe, but I get it. I think, I know a lot of other social media figures do rely on ad revenue, whether that be like through the platform or third parties. So do what you got to do. But I feel like with what we believe in, I don't think you're going to be seeing any Raid Shadow Legends.
There's going to be a little pop-up like right here, like Raid Shadow Legends. Like, come on, you got to get on this platform now. Got to play it.
It's like, use my Fortnite discount code. Oh shit, I don't even play Fortnite anymore. Nah, all jokes. We stay grinding Fortnite.
Yeah, I think we're actually gonna play tonight, hopefully. But one thing we do need to talk about is you want to talk about some more philosophy stuff, and I've gotten some feedback about that from the community. If you wanted to segue into that.
Yeah. Well, shit, you put me on the spot because I don't have the actual doc open, but I'll pull it up here now. But yeah, just going off of that. One or two of the comments were just talking about, I think it was episode 2 in specific, and you guys seemed to really like the philosophical nature that we had going with that. So I just looked on Safari at some open-ended philosophical questions we could talk about, and I'll mention one in a second, but I don't know. What do you think about the just discussing open-ended questions as a whole? But
I mean, I'm all for it. Like, I'll give you whatever answer you want. So it's I think in the doc you wrote, how do you envision yourself 5 years ago or 5 years from now?
Oh yeah. That was my own personal one. We could touch on that before we go to some of the ones I've pulled up here on Safari. But the question is, how did I envision myself 5 years ago and 5 years from now? So 5 years ago, I would have been, let's just say for sake of things, 25 now. So at 20. So I think I was a sophomore in college. Can't exactly recall. Let's just say a younger man as a sophomore. It's hard to say at the time because I feel like I've done a lot of, I don't know, I'm just not that same person I was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I had the ambition of staying within healthcare. I know at the time, like, things were just beginning to pop off with COVID. So a lot of our futures were kind of up in the air. And it kind of reminds me of like the time around like when Modern Warfare 2 was out. And have you seen those comments where it's like when your parents are like absolutely getting wrecked by the early 2000s like economic crisis, and you're just like getting called like this and that on Modern Warfare 2? Kind of felt like that again. I remember I was even playing the newer Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think it was like 2019 at the time. So I didn't really have too many plans for the future. I remember just with the relationship I was in at the time, I was just trying to nurture, grow that. I was microdosing at the time too, and that was a pretty pivotal time. And I had to remember I had to retake a calc class because I failed it, and it was just a strange time because going off of it, going right into COVID, it didn't really feel like life was leading to too much at the time other than just like self growth. And looking back on it now, like that time definitely formed the person I became now. But in terms of future plans, I don't think I was too set on anything other than healthcare, which I later learned I didn't want to do. What about yourself?
So just to give some background, I'm currently majoring in computer science, and I'd say back then, I think that was that 2019, right?
5 years ago. Yeah, let's just say for sake of argument, 19.
Yeah, so 2019, that's kind of near the end of my junior year, which is when COVID started. And I was thinking, like, why haven't we always been doing remote work? Or why haven't we always been doing this kind of form of remote learning? And back then, that was probably one of the coolest and most interesting things that has happened in my life, was just going to more of this remote learning back in, I'd say that was my junior year of high school. Yeah, and I think I probably wouldn't have envisioned myself where I am today, but like back then, if I would have saw a page on Instagram with like 100,000 followers, I'd be like, oh, they're really famous. But nowadays, when I look at it, I'm like, I'm at 368, and I'm like, there's still more to go. So it's like you're always chasing something. But yeah, I can envision myself at the position I am now. I think in certain aspects of life, like not in the social media kind of micro influence or macro influence or whatever you want to call it, but yeah, I'd say I didn't even want to go to college at first, because when I think you were talking about like the costs and everything with it, I was like, that it just does not sound like a thing that I would personally do, and just put myself in that form of like financial burden in my life. So at that moment 5 years ago, I was thinking of doing maybe like a trade, like being like an electrician or something, and just like growing my way up in that position. But yeah, I don't think I could see myself where I am today 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny to think that. And I feel like, especially as we're coming up on like our mid 20s, for you early 20s, it seems like the sense of change that's happening now is still pretty grand. Because I mean, even like 3 months ago, I was in a completely different situation than I am now. And I think that is the case for a lot of Gen Zers that are in their like early to mid 20s. I feel like there's just a lot of pivotal life things that can happen, whether it be like a big move to a different state or city, or new jobs, going back to school, finishing school. So I don't know. It seems like we're in that age of what's going to define us, and what's like leading to that definition of who we become is, late to like mid 30s, or actually mid 20s to like mid 30s, I guess. Something like that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, and sometimes sometimes I have these dreams of like when I'm 30 and I'm just like miserable. They're just it's like things along those lines. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna be like 30 one day, or like 40. I'm like, I hope my life is good by then. But if it's bad, then I'm still gonna have to accept it in some form or way. So yeah, I wonder what the next 5 years has to come. Probably gonna move out of current state I'm in. But yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like between me and you, we can both give each other pretty good reality checks of where we're at. And with our friends, I think that they do that for us too, and we do that for them too, which is one thing I try not to take for granted. So I hope we're not in the position where, we're like in our 30s and it's like, holy fuck, I am a deadbeat divorced dad now. I really hope it doesn't get to that. And I don't know. I think just doing those little mini reality checks here and there and just keeping each other in line and making sure we're still doing fun, fresh things, keeping up with the comedy, eating good, going to the gym. I think we have a good head on our shoulders for the most part. But yeah, 5 years from now, yeah, I don't see myself living where I am now. I don't see myself having the same job. Relationship wise, who honestly fucking knows? Because as you know, I just ended a long-term relationship. So the prospect of like beginning something new is not something I'm too keen on at the moment. But at the same time, like opportunities come and go, and whether you're willing to take them or not is completely up to you. But I like to think as a whole, we're somebody that's always down for a good new adventure.
Oh yeah. And even like talking about relationships, like I will fumble a 10 and I'll just be like, it'll weigh on me for at least like a week. And I asked my really good buddy, he's a foreign exchange student, pretty good looking guy. I was like, hey bro, have you ever fumbled like a baddie or like a 10? He's like, bro, all the time. I'm like, okay, so I guess we're on the same park here. But it weighs on me maybe like a week or two. And then eventually in my mind, I'm like, there's always something new around the corner. There's always this next person, this next opportunity, this next goal you're going for. So it's just like, it might weigh on you super heavy in the moment, but the longer you just live through it, the better it gets.
Yeah, I feel like you can take the hit pretty hard at first, though. And I mean, that's not a fault on your own, because let's say you're like going on let's say you have like a good like handful of dates, like 5 to 10. It seems like everything's going pretty well. You're making her laugh. She's making you laugh. You're spending time, money, and emotions with this person. And in our case, for like the woman to just cut it off can be really like heart-wrenching for us. And I know, everyone has their own reasons for doing things, but it seems like sometimes in your case, like it'll just happen without notice. Have you noticed any of that?
Oh yeah, of course, like every single time. But yeah, but it's pretty heart-wrenching at first, but I know what my goals are in my life, and now that I've gone through so many of those kind of moments, I'm like, this, like, you can't, that David Goggins book, like, Can't Hurt Me. It's just like, it can't hurt me. Yeah, but I kind of employ that Goggins mentality. I know that one of his quotes from one of his Instagram videos were like, oh, like your girlfriend just broke up with you, or like you wanted to get that new promotion, but someone else got it, like they chase better ass than you, or something like that. But you just got to move past it, like move forward. Like the more you let it dwell on your mind, the weaker you become. So I've just been kind of employing that more in my life, even though a lot of people might find like that kind of motivational, kind of hard mentality like kind of cringe, but it makes sense once you've gone through a lot of stuff in your life. So it's been helping me out a lot.
Yeah, I think this is one point we definitely differ on, because I don't feed too much on that specific ideology. But I remember one night we had recently where I was down pretty bad, and we had our buddy over, and it was just like a lot of like heart to heart, like male to male talk, where it's like, yeah, buddy, it's a pretty shitty position to be in, but you got to keep your goals in mind, was essentially what I got from it. It's like, yeah, it fucking sucks now, but like you said, you got to have like a buds moment almost.
Yeah.
And it might not be like necessarily like a literal buds moment, but in the metaphorical sense, I had to become something that I wasn't at that time.
Yeah, basically, you just have to. It's like a new software update on your computer. You just gotta update the software, and then you're all good, or at least you improved. Yeah, but
Yeah, and for like the very small percentage of bots, well, I don't know. Maybe you do have quite a few female followers, but when we're speaking about these instances with relations we've had in the past, it is coming from a male perspective, and I get it. Like females have their stuff going on, and I don't know. Sometimes if you just want to ghost people, like by all means, you don't have an obligation to stay with somebody when there's no real attachment in the sense of like a relationship. But I don't know. I feel like for the times that we've been in there, like I guess what I'm trying to say is nobody likes to get ghosted.
yeah, it's like the worst feeling. It's like, oh, I thought everything was going well, but then like I guess it wasn't. So you kind of take a little bit of a hit in the moment, but then you just move past it, like I said. And I don't really understand the concept of ghosting. I personally never ghost people because I know what it feels like to be ghosted. So it's really hard, and I don't see the perspective. I think it's pretty immature too. So it's like, at least give me a reason. Like, at least give me some feedback here, because I'm a person at the end of the day. I'm a human. I'm not like I'm not like an ant. I'm not a worm. Like, I'm a human. I need this like feedback, or I feel like something is going wrong. Maybe I need to improve something. Maybe that person just isn't in that like best shape in their life, or what I mean best shape as in like they might not be going through the best of times. So it's like there needs to be a reason behind it, but it's just so easy nowadays just to not respond to people. So it's like it's like sending a carrier pigeon out to someone, but then when they receive the carrier pigeon, they just shoot it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess this is kind of a moment of being vulnerable as a man, but I see how ghosting could happen in the sense of, let's say you're just online talking to somebody for a week, 2 weeks, and then you don't get a message back. I feel like that is a very different context than like if you've gone on a few dates with somebody, like I said, like 5 to 10, or hell, even like 3 at that point. I feel like it's pretty significant, and then you just never hear back. It always like leaves that lingering feeling that, was it you? Was it just not the right time, the right place? I don't know. It just leaves so much ambiguity, so much liminality, honestly, and it's just kind of uncomfortable.
That's when you said liminality out that. It kind of feels like you're stuck in a liminal space when you get ghosted. It's like you don't know when when the previous message was there, but you don't know when that future message is going to reappear. So it's like you're just stuck in the backrooms, like mentally in your head. Like, is this person ever going to get back to me? Did they die? What happened to you? Like, what's going on with you?
And I guess this is kind of a message for everyone, not just like women, but I think at the end of the day, people are more than just names and numbers on a phone screen. It's like there's a beating heart and emotions behind, I would say, most people, and especially people that, care very deeply, that I think I don't know, just don't leave shit to chance, or just in that like or in that open-ended zone. If you're not feeling something, at least at the least just let it be known.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, don't ghost people, please don't. Like, it's not fun. It's not the best experience, and I think it's hard on me mentally. But going forward with relationships, it's just like you're kind of putting yourself at a vulnerable position nowadays, especially in relationships, because you're putting a lot of your emotions on the table. So you're leaving yourself vulnerable to whatever's out there. So yeah, that's my view on it.
Yeah, I don't really have too much else to say on it, but I feel like, especially in this age of online dating apps, I feel like that kind of contributes to this epidemic we're going through of just the loss of like human connection, and it's just so hard for two people to go out now. And I feel like that's not just secluded to our experience, but it seems like more of a generational thing, and especially with my friends I talk to who are like early to mid 20s. It seems like that's kind of the Gen Z thing that we're going through. And I don't know, it's just nice to go on a date and have fun with people. It doesn't have to be super serious, you know? Shit could be casual, and if you're not feeling it, just let it be known. Or if you're liking it, just keep going with it.
Yeah, of course. And it's just like, it's going out and having a good time with another person at the end of the day, because I mean, if you're having a great time, I'm having a great time, then I'm not like looking towards anything far into the future. I'm just enjoying my time with this person. I'm not like looking to like fucking in depth into this. Like, this isn't a psych paper I'm writing. Like, come on, let's have some fun. It's like, let's live life, because we're all gonna die at the end of the day. So let's at least live our lives with people that we enjoy like spending time with. And yeah.
Yeah, summed up, that's pretty good. And that's one thing I always try to keep in mind with dates. And I haven't been on all too many recently, but just in the past and even going forward, I still try to keep that same idea of, nothing is really ever as serious as it feels. You can, like you said, just go out, have a good time. If you want to continue things, dope, keep running it. And you don't have to force anything, bro. Like, you could just go out for a drink or a fucking pizza or some shit.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like pull out the engagement ring or anything. Like, come on, let's be serious.
Like, here, you can sign right here on this prenup, and you can fork over 50% at this point in the relationship. And I need to get married now. I'm not joking anymore.
Oh my god. Yeah, but I don't know. It's some people it's like that. Like, I feel like if you're dating like a super like religious person, I feel like that's always going to be in their back of their mind. So it's always different with like person to person. But like, Gen Z is really weird nowadays, because of course there's dating apps, and I've tried them, didn't enjoy them. They're kind of odd, just having like, so like it's like oh, it's like, yeah, you know, meet up with this person with a swipe, but there's so many opportunities out there that's like, you go from one person to the next, and then in your mind there's like, oh yeah, there's something better, so I need to go to the next person, and then the next person, and then I'm miserable.
Yeah, I don't have much experience with dating apps, but that seems to be the overall sentiment. Even from my buddies I talk to that do use them, people don't really have the same level of respect for people that they would in person. So that's why I'm kind of like, yeah, they're there, but I feel like if I really want to put forth the effort and meet somebody that like is really dope, like in person, I think is still the way to go. Call me old fashioned, but I feel like that's the way.
Oh, wait, sorry, I was having some issues with my camera.
You're good.
But yeah, I've actually implemented that pretty much after my freshman year of college. It's just whatever comes my way, it comes my way. If it's good, if it's bad, I deal with it. If I enjoy the person, I enjoy him. But then they're like, oh, sorry, I have a boyfriend. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is where this is going.
Well, whatever comes my way, comes my way. If it's a 6'3" ripped gay guy, I'm here for it.
I am here for it. No. But
so, bot sexuality, wow. Wow. The rabbit hole. Nah, I'm just messing.
Yeah. Like, relationships are interesting nowadays versus like back in the days where it's like, oh, I met this really beautiful girl at the diner, I'm gonna take her out. And then nowadays, I think I actually saw this funny reel of what I was just talking about, like a guy like meeting this really beautiful girl at a diner in the 60s. It's like, yo, you're really beautiful, I want to take you out. Yeah, you've seen it. And then 2024 is just like swipe, swipe, swipe. Ah, damn. And then just keep on just falling back in that weird cycle of just technology, and just maybe Ted Kaczynski was onto something.
Yeah, it's a weird reality we're living in. Almost feels Black Mirror-esque, some would say.
Yeah, I can't wait for social credit scores.
Oh yes, the CCP. All glory to.
Yeah, we're actually that's our next sponsorship. It's sponsored by the CCP. Xi Jinping, great guy. You're gonna pay us? Well, hey, we're selling out now. That's where we're at now. So.
Oh yeah. We will shake it for the CCP. You heard it here first. I'm currently shaking it for Xi Jinping.
Yeah, but do you want to cover any last minute points? So we're about like an hour in.
Yeah. Was there anything? Let me take a look at the doc through this little 2-inch slit I have.
9 to 5 kind of work kind of stuff.
Yeah, we had a pretty decent amount of stuff here we haven't touched on yet, but
I know you wanted to cover.
We just talked about relationships,
philosophy kind of stuff, but yeah, I don't know.
I feel like we got a pretty good base on that. I guess we could kind of just talk about maybe our last 2 points. We could talk on the 9 to 5 real quick, and then maybe finding meaningful work.
Yeah,
right with you.
Oh, okay, cool. So, finding meaningful work. I don't know, because I find a level of meaningful work because I don't want to dox myself, but I work in critical infrastructure right now. And I feel like I am kind of contributing a level to society in a sense because so one of the interesting things is that we're actually working on more cybersecurity related stuff at my job. And like we are the #1 targeted infrastructure in the US, if you didn't know that. But
nice. Didn't know that.
Yeah, we're like top tier on the Chinese hacker list, but we get hacked pretty regularly, surprisingly. And I think just doing good stuff for society is just really great. And a lot of people don't like work those kind of jobs. I know that a majority of jobs where we live are mainly like service-based stuff, right?
Yeah, Nevada. I feel like that's as a whole now. The economy has kind of shifted to just like you said, service-based work.
Right, but like one thing is actually talking to this one person, but they actually work in retail, and they were like, yeah, it's nothing interesting. It's like I don't really see myself having like a big impact on life, but I feel like even if you do work like a service job, you're still adding some meaningful value to life. Like you could be working as like a retail person, but like I feel like meaningful work or meaningful connections could come from that. As in like, oh, you could sell this really great form of clothing to a person, and then maybe that could inspire them or something, or maybe that could increase their level of confidence to try to maybe start something new, or I don't know, you like develop the cure to cancer because you're so confident in yourself or something along those lines. Like it doesn't always have to be like crazy jobs that people are working nowadays. It could just be something simple that you're still contributing a level to society in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting route you took with it because you went with meaningful work being correlated to something positive for the overall benefit of society. And I think that's a really crucial part. But I feel like another big aspect is finding something that you enjoy, because it's ultimately going to be you clocking in for the job site or you showing up day in, day out. And I think a big part of contributing to society is like putting good work into what you do. And I don't know about you, but if I don't like something, it's pretty hard for me to fake the fact that I don't like it. I've done it in multiple things and it's not the most enjoyable thing. So one thing I've really had to learn about myself lately is essentially finding like meaningful work for myself and something that like makes sense. For one thing, it has to make sense to me. I have to see like if it doesn't sit well with like my morals, then I'm like, this is fucked, bro. Like I just can't get behind that shit now. And it's been kind of an interesting trajectory that I've taken to get to that point. But I think I'm slowly getting closer to the point of like definitive, meaningful work. And I don't know, it's been a weird, trying time of the 20s. And I think a lot's still going to change from like the point I'm at now to really having like some meaningful work. But I don't know. I think it comes in multiple forms. I think for a lot of people like myself, it's like, it's multiple things. I don't think I just have like one thing that I can offer that I believe in and believe in for other people. But I think it's like multiple avenues.
Yeah, I think I covered something totally different, but still kind of tied back to it. But
That's all good.
something you said was previously was you actually didn't like working in healthcare, something that you're currently doing. And I think it's really interesting nowadays because we could pivot to so many different avenues of work. It doesn't just have to be just one thing that you've studied for a majority of your life. You could change up from being like a painter to a coder nowadays because it's just so easy and you have so many free resources of just whatever you want to do. And just as long as you're finding meaningful paths in your life through just the work that you do, I think is really interesting. Like, you don't just have to be tied to one thing. I remember there's this one really interesting case of this one guy called I don't know, it's this Asian guy. I think his name was like something Kim, Johnny Kim maybe or something. But basically,
Hans Kim?
No, not Hans Kim. It's another dude. But he was a doctor. And then he was a Navy SEAL, and then he was an astronaut. I don't know if you've seen that. It's a whole picture, but I don't know. It's just really interesting how we could just pivot into different things. I know that a lot of people feel stuck in their lives because of just the amount of investment that they've put into, but it's not all just that. At the end of the day, you could do something totally different. It doesn't just have to rely on just something that you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I know I reference it a lot, but I'm really interested right now in like the different generations and what they stand for, because it really, I feel like I'm living in real time and understanding some of those things. And I think with the generation that we're currently in, which is beginning to get a little older, albeit home ownership is honestly unrealistic at this point for us. Fuck us, but it is what it is. But like, you know, living on their own, starting families, that sort of thing. I think with this generational change that's happening, it's becoming evident that people don't like to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And I think that's a really important thing because that's an outdated system and it doesn't bode well with most people. And I think I saw this statistic the other day that's like, I think it's like 70 or 80% of people hate their job. And that's crazy to think about because you spend a significant amount of time at your job. And if you're just clocking in for something that, you know, you don't believe in, stand for, really find meaning from, it's like, dude, that's your life after school. Like, you have to work to make money unless you're like old money kids. And for most people, that's not the case. So I guess where I'm going with that is it's nice to see, I guess, like the passing of guards with generations, because I think like our parents and the older people that are still alive right now ascribe to that ideology, or I don't know, maybe it's just like something that they inherited from older people that told them. But then you come these free thinkers that, you know, are part of like Gen Z or what's the new one? Gen Alpha, like right. These like younger people that have more, I don't want to say like liberal ideas, but just more, I don't know, like more ground shattering ideas that challenge the status quo. It's like, guys, we don't have to live in this fucking squalor. Like, you don't have to get that 4-year degree. Like, bro, you know, there's so many certs now, or certifications, long form. And I'm even thinking about pursuing some just because it's like the idea of going back to college seems so far fetched. And you've even given me some advice in like the CS field. Like, bro, I would definitely rethink like that 4-year CS degree for some kind of like IT cert. And I feel like that's given me even more perspective on like that situation.
So one of the previous candidates I supported previously, Andrew Yang, I don't know if you remember that phase in my life where I was supporting him, but basically his whole thinking was, one of his platforms was that college just is not the same that it was so many years ago. Like colleges have just gotten so much more expensive just because of administrative bloat, and the cost of things have just risen so much that it's just so much harder just to pay for school. And it's not the same value that you got before. Like before you might have gotten more teacher to administrative ratio, where nowadays it's just a lot of the expenses just go into the actual management portion of college. And one of the interesting things is that in America, it's very frowned upon if you don't go to college. It's like, you sold yourself out. You're not going to get anywhere in life. But realistically, that's not even the case anymore, because you could go into something like a trade, or something like it could be like an electrician, where the amount of the percentage of people in the U.S. In a trade is just so much lower than something like in Europe, where the actual ratio of people that are in trades nowadays are just much more higher in Europe than it is in the US, because it's just so much more frowned upon if you don't go to college. It's just, I think things really just have to stop going towards just college. Like there's different paths out there nowadays. It's not just go into debt because like you really can't like pay up front because of a college education. But yeah, I think it's kind of silly how people have just stressed so much on going to college, and then the person coming out either really great or either miserable, and then you just got to live that for the rest of your life. So yeah.
I think that's why I don't tend to voice a lot of my career strife with older people, because probably the number one thing they'll always say is, "Oh, have you considered college?" And I'm like, dude, I just fucking graduated from college. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm like, have you gone to college? Do you even know what you're saying right now? Because a lot of times it's like people that haven't gone to college. So I don't know. And it's like, I feel like a big thing with jobs is like, you don't understand what you like until you've experienced some of it. And with people being what's the word I'm looking for, being coerced into going to college like right when you're 18, having to pick a major, figuring out like loans or how you're going to pay for it, it doesn't make sense for most people when they're 18, because it's like, unless you're like one of the few that, you know, really know what they want to do, it's just like putting yourself in a trap almost.
Yeah, and like I know this one guy who graduated out of law school, and he's like in a lot of debt. So it's like, it's kind of funny because you're writing this check to this other person. It's like, oh yeah, I'm writing this check to like my ex-wife in another state. So it's like, how am I benefiting from this? I know that, of course, some jobs you need a degree for it, because that's just what has been implemented nowadays to actually get a job in that field. But I feel like the stressing of college has just gotten to a point where the benefits from it, based on what career path you want to go into, just does not matter anymore. And going to college nowadays just seems kind of silly, because I personally voiced this. I didn't want to go to college at first because I just wanted to do my own form of certifications and then just build up from that. But I guess parenting and just stigma from society has just driven me to this point. But yeah, not a fan of college. I'd say if you really need to go into something that requires it, do it. But if not, don't, because you might just get something that you don't expect out of it.
Yeah, I definitely 100% share a lot of that same sentiment behind just peer pressure and parenting. But being where I'm at now, if I could give some advice to my younger self, or even like some of our younger audiences, I would highly stress critical thinking when it comes to anything, but like specifically with like your education and the prospect of what you want to do. Because I think a big thing that I was not necessarily a victim of, but was kind of subjected to, was I wasn't given that ability to like think for myself when it came to a career. Like my parents were just like, okay, you're going to take this major. This is what's going to happen. And And I wasn't really informed of the consequences of those decisions. And ultimately, it's like me that has to pay the price for like the loans and not following through at like professional school because I found that's not something I wanted to do. So for the younger audience, it's like reach out to like multiple people. Like, don't just, I guess we're in that age now where you don't have to just believe what you're told at face value. Like the internet, albeit a fucking meme rabbit hole, can be a very powerful tool. You can get so many different perspectives on any situation. And I think now more than ever, it's like you don't just have to believe in traditions and what's these stories that have been told from like generation to generation. And I think some of the like our older parents were victims of that, but you don't have to do that anymore. You can really understand the path that you want to choose and be able to critically think for yourself. You don't have to I don't know. I guess that's just really what I'm trying to get at. Just don't believe shit at face value. Like look into shit for yourself. Like understand like, okay, if I do this, this is going to happen. If I want to pursue like this career, these are the steps I have to take. This is the money that's relatively going to be involved, and like analyze your own situation. Don't just take shit for what somebody tells you.
Yeah, and one of the funny things was you mentioned was owning a house nowadays, and that just seems so out of my reach because the cost of just everything has just skyrocketed. And like BlackRock is, and just these other companies are just buying out a lot of residential homes. So it's going to be damn near really hard to own a house in the future. So it's either you're going to be renting or you're going to be homeless. So whichever path you want to choose. But going along with that, I know that me and you, we really share the sentiment for living off grid and away from society, because you can just do everything on your own and you don't need to be disturbed by the government. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that's something that you're definitely more passionate about than I am, but it is an idea that appeals to me. I think it's something that would be cool. Like, it's just, there's so much fucking research you have to do before you get into something like that. That's the kind of part that makes me, I guess, a little more like hesitant to begin. But I want to touch on this before I move on to that. But yeah, with the housing thing, it's funny because in like this era of subscription services, even the fucking housing has become subscription based, because it's like most people our age and going forward, bro, realistically are either going to be like living with their parents, paying rent most likely, or in an apartment. It's like, bro, we don't own shit. 1984, that shit became reality. So I guess that's all I want to touch on with that is like, I'll probably be in an apartment for a minute, but if I could someday get like a little off-grid setup, or if we were to run something like that, I mean, bro, the apocalypse seems imminent. Maybe Fallout was onto something.
Yeah, I think just the whole paradigm of owning a house nowadays. I remember I was talking with when I was doing our taxes with that one guy. He was like, so do you plan on owning a house? I was like, no. he was like so his argument was like, oh, there's so much equity in it, and you just like the equity. And I'm like, I'm just personally not enjoying living in suburbia because of the health risk involved with living next to a major street, or living in a city because of the pollution. That just reduces my lifespan by a few years, and just the negative health costs of just living in a city. And it's just so polluted. I know, like, where we live, it's nothing like China, so a lot about that. But it just seems like we've gotten so disconnected just living in cities. And just I mean, it's great, trust me. Like, I love going to raves in the city. It's amazing, but I feel like just moving away from that kind of lifestyle would definitely help out a lot. Just relying more on myself at the end of the day, because eventually, you never know, stuff might just start breaking down, and
yeah,
just be nice.
Yeah, I think that idea of self-reliance is something people should take more to heart, because most people living in the cities have a lot of reliance, not just in the physical sense on other things, but just like healthcare systems too. Like you should be working out, like you should be getting your steps in, you should be eating healthy regardless of whether it's convenient to go to like the McDonald's right next to your house. Like, don't just rely. This comes back to critically thinking too about your own well-being. It's like, learn how to shoot guns, lift weights. I know I probably sound like Jocko right now, but like, there's probably, I feel like some kind of I don't know what's the word, like some kind of like self-fulfillment that you need to attain for yourself that institutions can't provide. Like, nobody's gonna press like working out on you, but from our own personal experience, that has to be one of the key tenets that I've tried to live my life by now, is like working out, eating cleaner, trying to sleep better. And it doesn't always seem like, I guess, like you were saying, like the city's institutions always have your best interests at mind.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like cities are just trying to do the damn bare minimum because they're trying to balance a budget in mind. And you can only do so much for millions of people that if one thing goes wrong in the system, then everything might just be screwed by tomorrow. And then you'll have a whole line of cars moving towards like Texas. You know, it's kind of like a California moment. California ain't doing so well. So that's why everyone moved. But yeah, just it's funny you mentioned about the workout thing because I actually have a few followers that I talked to about pressing the whole workout thing, and I think it's been really important in my life just having to go to the gym damn near every single day, because if I don't, I start to question my own form of health.
Lose it.
Yeah, I start to lose it. And I told some people, I'm like, yeah, dude, if I don't go to the gym at least like every single damn day, or if I just have like a rest day for like 2 days, I'm chilling. But if I don't have that, I might just start to go a little bit crazy in my head.
Yeah, I think that's why we get so fired up too when we talk about this. I know me especially, because we've both lived lives in which we've experienced the positives of consistent working out, and then more sedentary lifestyles where you don't have your physical fitness at like the same level of importance that you do other things. And I feel like for like as a nation, like, I don't know, bro, the US is going fucking weak, it seems. Like, people are just not eating as well, working out as much. And I feel like just to be like a competent nation as a whole in society, like, you need to be doing these things regardless of like whether someone's telling you to or not. Like, it has to be an internal motivation. And I feel like I feel like I don't even need to sell the idea. It's more so of like a try it for yourself and then report back how you feel. Like, I don't need to tell like you know how much that shit like can change your overall life. Just try it, I guess.
One thing, this little thought experiment I like to do with some people is like, okay, if you were really fat, if you had a button to remove that, every damn person would be pressing that damn button. If you're fat and you had a button that was like, okay, I could be in shape and fit, every damn person would be fucking smashing that button. And it's like, you got to have some form of accountability towards yourself and just your meat vehicle in life, because like you'll eventually, that stuff is going to start catching up to you. Eventually you're going to be like in your 40s. It's like, damn, I wish I would have gotten a little bit more in shape. But the process never even ends when you're older. I still see damn near 60, 70-year-olds in the gym still hitting it hard. And it's like the process never stops. Like, I guess like peak muscle growth kind of stops in your earlier ages. And the older you get, it just becomes a lot harder to build muscle, which is why a lot of older people, I know one personally, has hopped on testosterone. So, yeah.
Yeah, I heard this crazy thing. I think Joe Rogan's approaching like 60, but he's still hammering it. So that's goals.
He is on TRT, I believe. So,
oh yeah,
case number one. But yeah, if you're fat, try to change something up.
I guess that is that's a pretty good stopping point, I think, unless you want to add anything else. But yeah, that's the heart of what we're getting at. I know I really like running these internals because me and Bot have, aside from the familial relationship and the time we spent, I think on the mic we have a good understanding of when to speak, when not to speak. So for those saying like episodes like 2 were more flowy and smooth, I think this is why, because when it's just one-on-one, we're able to communicate our ideas in a way that we kind of piggyback off of one another, so it doesn't feel like too forced. So I guess I like the internals. They're kind of fun to run alongside some of the more prominent guests we have.
Oh yeah, and I guess that was a pretty good stopping point. I guess one of the newer things we're gonna do is, of course, the hotline. Of course, do some more. We're gonna do the live stream segment, and of course, we're gonna be having a few more guests on. One of them is this one account he owns. He actually owns 2 accounts. It's this meme page he has called Shipped Beans, and this other one called Bath Foods. But yeah, something to look forward to. We want to get more people on, and yeah, that's everything from my end.
Yeah, I don't know if we shouted him out, but that dude that's been making those SpongeBob reels on Insta with the motivational text, shout out to that guy, because he's been pretty useful for me lately. And not even useful, but it's been a nice aesthetic to come across on my reels.
Yeah, shout out to his name is Zenzog. I really want to collab with him, so maybe if he's watching, really want to collab with you, dude, because even though I really like the simplified form of content with just, like SpongeBob clips and kind of like that motivational kind of motivational input you put into it, I think helps out a lot of people, and hopefully I can collab with them one day.
Sweet. Yeah, that was episode 5. I'm the co-host. This is your host. And anything else from you? That's it for me.
No, that's for me. That's it for me. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.